Hello and welcome to the second episode of session 9. In fact, I was going to say season 9. I was like, I've not been doing this for 9 years. It feels like I've been doing it for 9 years. Welcome to session 9 of the Green Room with me, David Green, and I'm delighted to be joined by two new contestants on the show tonight. And we'll let you two introduce yourselves. We'll start with you, Sarah.
Hi, I'm Sarah Tasz. I write under the name SG Tasz. I'm based in Las Vegas, and I write paranormal comedy, urban fantasy kind of stuff. My latest book is Death by Misadventure, just came out. That's paranormal mystery. And that's the beginning of a series that'll keep going into the future. And I'm really happy to be here. I'm really looking forward to this game.
Excellent. Into the future. Who knows when it's going to end? Just keep going until people tell you to stop, beg you to stop. Let's hope that never happens.
Yeah.
And Wayne, how about yourself?
My name is Wayne Turmel. I'm also in Las Vegas. I write under the name Wayne Turmel because my ego will not permit pen names. I write all kinds of stuff. I've got 10 nonfiction businessy books out. I have written 3 historical fiction, and my latest work is the Johnny Lycan Werewolf PI series. And it's fun to be here.
Excellent. That's a great series as well. So thank you both for coming on, and thank you, Joe, who is behind the scenes, that is doing the production, and everyone who's here watching. So please join in with your comments. We have Anita Stewart here already, as always. She is always the first commenter. And for anyone who's watching, please send a star to let our hosts and producers know how much you appreciate what they do here at Go Indie Now. Every time you contribute, you get entered into our season prize package drawing with gift cards, swag, and more. And let us know as we go through the game what you all think our contestants are doing or how they're doing against each other. Because, as if you've not watched the show before, there are going to be 3 topics or 3 rounds where each contestant will contribute a topic of something that they have to convince me to consign to the Green Room forever. And yes, it depends how convincing they are. I'm very easily convinced, and I am feeling in a very easily convinced mood today as well. So we're going to do a little coin toss to see who goes first. So here it goes.
Calling it.
Who's calling it? Yeah, call it quick.
Shoot. I don't know if I was going to say that anyway, but.
There you go. Well, that's good enough for me. So let's get on with round 1. And Sarah, you're going to take it away.
Okay. So I'm probably going to be reading from some of this stuff because I have a lot of thoughts. I was at a conference this weekend. And it was pretty slow. So I just spent the whole time ranting in a journal. So the first one I've chosen to title, When I Go to Sleep, Nothing Happens in the World. This is my first complaint. Now, I chose to be an indie book publisher, book writer, after querying for about a year on a different book that I did. And I chose it because I suspect I'm a bit of a control freak. People who know me can probably vouch for that. But I didn't like the idea of having to wait, and I'm impatient. So I want to be in control, and I want it all happening right now, or as now as I can make it. And I really like that about indie publishing. I like that, I get to design the covers or work with designers that I like to do the covers. I get to do the formatting. I get to set my release schedule. I have all of this flexibility. I have all of this freedom. I have all of this power over my work. The problem is, and what I'm talking about and what I'm getting at here is that eventually I have to sleep. And, not a problem for everybody. Some people can go, days or whatever. They have this superpower that they don't have to sleep. I do. I have a young son, and just generally I'm a very tired person. I always have been. So I need decent amounts of sleep. And when I go to sleep, everything stops. There's no machine, no company, no one, working on analyzing figures. There's nothing happening when I'm not up and running and doing it all. Now you may be saying like, okay, yeah, you could hire people, right? Well, technically, yes, I probably could in a world where I have tons of money, or, you know, a money tree starts growing in my backyard or something. But right now, it just doesn't make any sense for where I'm at. And I know I'm not the only one that does this. This is something that, you know, indie publishers have to deal with. We have pretty strict budgets that we're on. We have very, you know, monetary and time both. And that's frustrating. And it's something that, you know, just continues to be something that you're always going to have to deal with, even when, you know, if you're lucky enough and successful enough and, you know, everything works out for you, you can hire people to help you. You're still going to be the one that the buck stops with you. You are still going to have to be making those decisions. You are going to be the roadblock, the bottleneck where things stop. You have to be available. So that is definitely something that is frustrating about this industry.
Okay. So, yeah, so basically, you know, what you're saying is that when you become a self-published author, particularly, you're like a business owner.
Yeah.
But the doors have to close at some point, and everyone has to go home.
Right.
In your case, sleep. Yeah, I mean, it's a funny one, isn't it? Because do you think that you know, you mentioned, and these are your words, by the way, it's just in case I'm like throwing shade at you or anything, but you said control freak and being impatient. Do you think these are like traits that a lot of like kind of self-published authors would share?
I mean, people probably would say it nicer. But yeah, I mean, I think so. I also, just the traditional publishing industry, it is a long lead time still. And, you know, I don't know anyone who wants to wait for that. Some people just have a better time of doing it than someone like me. And yeah, I think there is a level of like meticulousness, and we want, I mean, this is art, right? And we want to have control over the final product, and you do give up a lot of that when you go traditional. So I've heard.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. Yeah. And you mentioned the money side of it as well, because obviously, you know, there is that thing where it's like, well, why don't you, like, you know, hire a PA, and why don't you do this, and why don't you but it costs, you know, and you have to kind of get to a certain level, which takes a lot of time, unless you get a hell of a lot of luck. So, you know, would you ever kind of see, if all the stars aligned, would you ever kind of hire someone to kind of do certain things?
Oh, I'm waiting for the day. Absolutely, I would. I would love
to. Cannot happen soon enough.
Right? Yeah. But I mean, you know, I have one series that's finished, but it was an experiment. I have only just started really treating it like a business. And then this new series it's brand new. It's not even a month old yet. So this is a really like, and this is why this topic came up now, is this is something I'm very much dealing with right at this moment, is, you know, how am I going to sustain this for long enough to have it become a situation where I can hire help? And so it's a very delicate balancing act.
I'll find a way where you don't need to sleep.
It's not going to happen.
You could get a clone. Would you trust your clone to do the things that you need to do?
I don't know.
Hell no. The clone has my DNA. I'm the problem already.
Clones are always just, you know, it's kind of right, but it's like 90%. It's like 90% right. It's not gonna, and then that 10% is just gonna be really annoying to have to go back and fix. You know, so
yeah,
it might be more trouble than it's worth.
Yeah, it's the key 10%, isn't it? That where all the differences happen. So, Wayne, what do you like to sleep?
Yes, although I've never been particularly good at it. The problem is not sleeping. The problem is I think there's a problem with expectations. And as you reach a certain age, you become more comfortable with the realities of life. Like Sarah said, nothing happens when you're sleeping. And I've been in this game just long enough to know that most of the time, nothing happens anyway. When you send a book out into the world, you get up in the morning and you check your stats and how did we do on Amazon and what happened and how many downloads and how many hits did my website get, and then you go down where's my standing on Amazon just before I go to bed, which probably leads to my not sleeping very well. And it's just, there's so much in the run up to getting a book out. You're making sure everything's loaded on Amazon or whatever source you're doing, and you're trying to get the word out, and you're trying to line up fabulous opportunities for promotion like this, and you're trying to do all this stuff, and then the book goes, and if you've got a play and it's opening night, there's a thing, there's an audience, there's an event. When you launch a book on Amazon, the clock turns to 12:01 and congratulations, your book is out in the world, and nobody is there. It literally just falls in the forest, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the whole problem with this business, and for somebody who's an adrenaline and performance junkie, I was a performer the first half of my life, and writing a book is like writing a great joke and then waiting a year for the laugh. The anticipation will kill you anyway.
Yeah, it's a lonely day. The day of release is a very, very lonely day.
It is a very low. It should be a happy day, but unless you bring your own cake, you're pretty much alone in the world. And the other thing is that I have traditionally published, and I have hybrid published, and I have self-published, and they all have their own level of, what's the word I'm looking for, suckage. They all have their charms and their knots. The thing about self-publishing is, unlike Sarah, I am not a control freak because I know me. And yeah, I need somebody. What I need is a remora. You know what a remora is? If you ever watch shark documentaries, the shark swims through the water, and there's these little fish that swim around on the outside of the shark, and the shark doesn't eat them because they clean up all the messes. The shark just chomps its way through the ocean. It cleans up all the mess the shark makes. That's what I need, is a remora, and they do not come cheap, apparently.
Well, let's see what the people in the comments think. We have quite a few. The first one that I saw was Nikki DeKeuster joined us. While Nikki is here, what I didn't say was that whoever does win today's show, we all come back next Monday or Friday, Monday, Friday, one of the days. We all come back again another day. Joe will let me know, and the winner gets to spend an hour with me, which isn't a great prize because the loser gets to spend half an hour with Nikki, which is far better. So one of you will hope to lose, I suppose. So hi Nikki, and Anita Stewart is also a control freak. It's Monday, excellent Monday. At a slightly earlier time, by half an hour. So Anita is a control freak as well. So there you go.
Nice.
Okay, but if control freaks unite, who runs the meeting?
Who runs the meeting? Yeah, the most one who likes it. The one who likes to control the most. I know Nikki is a control freak as well. I know she agrees with being a control freak. Biggest enemy is sleep. You see, I'm getting better at sleep as I'm getting older, but I have less energy to do anything. Brain mush is a regular occurrence. Yeah, that's right. Corey says, try using NSDR as a way to refresh throughout the day. I don't know what NSDR is. Please let us know what that is. What's that?
And you need a prescription.
Oh, right. Okay. It's one of those things. Okay. Can the clone be around just to sleep for me and transport? That'd be great, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
some kind of like feedback loop.
Yes. Lots of things happen when I sleep. Most of my problems I have to deal with in the morning.
Well, that's just a whole other thing.
Yes. And Nikki, at 43, I'm less comfortable with reality than I ever been. Have you ever looked out there? It's horrifying. I'll stay in the horror genre where it's safe. Thank you very much.
All right,
No
fantastic.
sleep, deep rest. Google anti-human. Oh, okay.
Heard
That
it.
sounds interesting. Yeah, I think the thing is with indie publishing and particularly self-publishing is, there's so many different things that you have to do to make it a success, and it all eats into the time where you actually have to write the thing that you actually want people to read. And it's like, I've done all this other stuff. When do I have time to actually write the next book? We forgot something. Oh no, what did we forget? Oh yes, topic one. we're in topic one still, and now we're going to go to Wayne. Take it away, Wayne.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm going to say something that is getting me less than love out in the world. I did a Facebook group takeover the other day, and I confessed that I am seriesed out, both as an author and as a reader. I am really, really tired of series. And let me kind of take both of those. As a reader, I have some pet peeves because, first of all, the older I get, the more time I realize I have less time left on this planet, and there is only so much I can read. And if I get sucked into a series, particularly a long epic series, and I know that this is dangerous, but I'm not reading other stuff, right? And about book 3 and page 2000, I'm like, is my life better for having dedicated it to this? And I'm getting very, very tired. And there are things about series, because I very often find books and pick them up in the middle of a series. And you have to decide, if you pick up a book in the middle of the series, can you pick it up and kind of understand enough for the story to stand alone? And if it doesn't stand alone, why did I bother? And so that makes me a little bit crazy. I also just enjoy a good stand-up. Something happens, it's really good, it's scary, it's fun, it's an adventure, it's a mystery, the story is solved, the end, next story. I find myself with that with TV shows now. I pine for a series that it doesn't matter if it's, season 2, episode 5. I can just sit down and watch the series. Television used to be like that. There might have been a thin thread throughout the series, but basically you just watch the show. And next week, the detective has another crime to solve. So that's, as a reader, I'm getting seriesed out. As an author, it's worse. Because I have the attention span of an Irish setter. I look at Dave and I realize what you've done with your epic fantasy. And while I stand in awe, I have zero desire to replicate that. I don't want to do that. And so I've written 6 novels now. The 6th comes out in May. I wrote my first book, which was a standalone, and I was very proud of it. And it's a very good book, and the story's over. The guy's dead. Spoiler alert. He lived in the 1920s and he's dead now. Series 2 is only a series by accident. I wrote a standalone story. Acra's Bastard is a lovely little standalone story. And I wrote an epilogue at the end of it about Luca as an old man looking back on his life. And my daughter informed me that if I left it that way and didn't do another story, when I was old, she would leave me in a home and never visit. So I wrote Acra's Orphans, which is a lovely book. I'm very proud of it. But then I realized, since I was self-publishing it, I was not going to spend another year and a half of my life writing a book that nobody read. And so there was no third part to the Lucas series. It's a 2-part series. Enjoy. Johnny Lycan, I always intended to be a series, and I always intended it to be a short one. And so the first 2 books kind of stand alone. The third book, and people can tell me different, because it ties off some loose ends. It's a little less of a standalone. But it's hard work, and I'm done. I'm done with these characters. There's other stories I want to tell. So I am series out.
Yes. No, you know what? I completely get it. And I am a fan of reading big long series, and obviously I've written a longer series. It wasn't too long of a series, it was four books. But I had no desire to go any longer than 4 books. But
they are, and I believe the technical term, David, is big ass books.
They are big ass books, yeah, pretty big. And I've read the Wheel of Time series multiple times, and there's 14 books in this and a prequel. So, but I can see the appeal of going shorter. There does seem to be like quite a shift at the moment of. And it's kind of going back to the Agatha Christie kind of style of things, where there was like a series of the same character on different books doing different adventures and mysteries that you could just drop in and drop out of whenever you wanted to.
That was always my intent with Johnny Lycan.
Right.
Was to do that. And the problem is that the business model for indie authors, everybody's a slave to 20 books to 50K and all the system, and you got to pace your books and they have to come out at a certain time. And it is an agonizing process. If you have things like a day job and a spouse that you like and a life.
Yeah. I'd say anyone that wants an easy win in a round can't do it in this one, but in a future episode, just mention 20 bucks to 50K and you're gonna win. You're gonna win the round. just so you all know, that would be mine if I was a contestant on this. So what do you think, Sarah, about series? I mean, you've just finished the series as well, haven't you? So
Yep.
Is that the way that you prefer it?
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much exclusively read series. I'll sit down, like I just read through the Southern Vampire Mysteries series, the Sookie Stackhouse, and I'm reading through Glass and Steel right now, and I really like being able to drop into a world and just kind of go. And I know I like knowing where my next book is coming from, and I know like I'm gonna like it. And it's similar for writing. Like I really like being able to create a character and spend time building them and fleshing them out, and same with the settings and the relationships over multiple books. But I've also noticed a shift where I think people are kind of getting seriesed out. And I've seen writers just do like, okay, I'm going to do 3 books and they're already, up for pre-order and that's it. It's just going to be the 3. So people kind of know what they're getting into. And I think that might be a response to people who don't start series until they're done. I've seen people talking about recently too. Yeah. But for me, I just like writing series, so I'm going to keep doing it.
Keep doing it.
Yeah, I think so. But I
focus and attention spans.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there is that thing that's a good point that you brought up as well, and I think it's particularly a thing that's in fantasy more than anything else, that a lot of people won't pick up a series until it's finished because they've been burnt so many times by things not being finished.
I know, and people who spend 10 years writing one book.
Yes, we won't mention any names
of the series. Oh no, I'm not thinking of anybody in particular.
No, I was at a convention, as I said before we came on. I was at a convention this weekend, and 3 of those people's names were mentioned regularly, pretty much every single panel, but at some point one of their names was brought up. It's like,
I'm
yes,
sure.
we know their books aren't finished. We know the series will never be finished, probably. No, that's an interesting one because because on the one hand, I absolutely agree with you, Wayne, but on the other hand, even though my next series is all going to be standalones, I will probably do another series at some point in the future as well. So, but I agree on that. They're just, it's a huge marathon of just everything, isn't it?
I mean, as an indie author, you can kind of work, like I figure, and Sarah was one of the first reviewers to just absolutely point out that my book falls in that Jim Butcher, Dresden space, right? And the way I think about it is that series is just going on forever. It's never ending, but there are books in between. And if you really, really need, I'm like methadone for Dresden addicts, because I can keep them maintained until his next book comes out.
Yeah. How many books does he say? It's 20 books, isn't it? That's what he's saying. 20 books.
Something like that. Plus, he's writing a really, really mediocre fantasy series, like epic fantasy series on top of it. So
that's what he wanted to write originally. That's what I heard.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to be, I wanted to be Bernard Cromwell and write the great historical novels, and I'm doing werewolf detectives at the moment. So suck it up and do what you got to do.
There you go. You don't know. You still got time to be Bernard Cromwell. You can do it. You can do it. Everyone can do it. Everyone has a bit of Bernard Cromwell inside of them. That's what they say. Okay, so yes, let's go to the comments. It is an interesting one. David just finished his monster epic fantasy series. It killed him several times. It literally did. I got better each time, but slightly diminished. Biggest hurdle in meeting a new author who wants me to review their stuff. They answer book 4. Yes. Yeah. Like series, find them lately, so have less time to read, and more likely to pick standalone novels. Yeah. David has zero desire to replicate. This is my series. Yeah, I'm not going to do an epic fantasy series anytime soon again, but probably one day when I'm older. I agree. A great start. Do you like a series? There we go. You read Lord of the Rings once, and that was enough, right? Well, you go back and read sections of it all the time because it's stuck with you so much, and you love it. Joe loves Lord of the Rings and Tolkien's work. That's a controversial take. See, Sarah's face twitched several times whilst reading that comment. So yes. It is very controversial. Series let you really get to know the characters, though. Still crying out the last Dresden book a year later. Joe is voting for Sarah. And Nikki says there's going to be 25 Dresden books. Wow.
Oh, that's too many.
It's too
Thank you, Sarah. Yes, it's too
Jim,
many.
it's too many, Jim.
It's too many. Okay, so people that are watching, please let me know who you thought came out on top on that topic as we get into the second round. And then, yes. It's here. Okay, and Wayne, since you went second the first time, you get to go first.
I'm afraid I may have just emptied my gun on the first topic. I do have a thing, and again, maybe I'm just in a bad mood these days. With all of the Sarah and I are in the same critique group, and I'm reading a lot of the same thing, and I'm never quite sure what's a trope and what is just blatantly plagiarized. To a degree, particularly with genre fiction, and especially with fantasy and some of this other stuff, you can tell that the person is sitting there typing on the keyboard with one hand and holding a copy of the hero's journey in the other, right? And they're just, it's all warmed over. It's the same stuff. People wear the same cloaks. They ride the same horses. They have the same magic swords. And I'm never quite sure when people are just engaging in a trope and when they're just telling a story that's already been told.
Okay.
And I'm reading a series now, and it's very well written. It's quite a lovely series, indie author, epic fantasy. And I actually stopped a couple of times to double check that I hadn't read this book already, because it was so incredibly familiar. And especially when you write genre stuff, it's really, really easy to go down that rabbit hole. And so maybe that's why I'm done with series, because they're all kind of blending together and everybody is doing a trilogy where they end up being the king. Yeah. There's a lot of that going on. And so the line between trope and been there, done that is getting blurrier and blurrier for me. So I confess that's making me a little bit grumpy. And I found a little bit of this even with myself. That's why, even though originally I had ideas for like 5 or 6 Johnny Lycan books, I went, no, 3 and I'm done. Because everything else is starting to be, echoes of the repetition.
Yes. So basically, you're saying it's either it's 3 books or 25, like Jim Butcher. There's no in between. It's got to be this or this. Like, do 25 Johnny Lycan books to see how you can keep going with it.
And when they find my lifeless, desiccated corpse washed up on a beach, we will remember this moment.
Yeah. Tropes is an interesting one because I was on a thing recently, and it was a panel, and usually with these things you get sent questions in advance a lot of times, as long as especially if there's like specific things where it's like, can you give us an example of this? And because what happens is, like, when someone asks you that, and your brain just like tries to give every single one that you know, and you can't say any of them. So I was asked what fantasy creature would I like to see less of, and I just said dragons straight away as a reflex. And then I was like, but I do like dragons, and I like dragons done really well. And also I have a tattoo of a dragon on my arm. So maybe not, but also yes, because I don't like really badly done dragons either. Because there's this thing, and it's kind of like how you were saying with the tropes. There's this kind of thing, especially in a lot of epic fantasy at the moment, and particularly in indie fantasy. It's like, we're going to put a dragon on the cover because people like dragons. And we have to just have a dragon in the story at some point. And it's like, why? It's just because people like them, doesn't really matter. So do you think that's kind of the thing with some of the tropes that you're seeing, Wayne? Is there, it's just kind of, do you think that the author is expecting, readers will expect these kind of tropes, or is it that it's kind of writing to market in a way?
Far be it from me to far be it from me to dig around inside somebody else's skull and judge. And that being said, I think a lot of it is writing to the market, not recognizing that the more you write to the market, the better it better be. I'll give you an example, and this will make no sense to anybody. When I was doing stand-up, Jerry Seinfeld was just starting. Jerry Seinfeld, the comedian, and he's brilliant and he's hysterical. But he begat 50 white guys in sweaters talking about the lost sock in the laundry, right? There was no personal exposure. There was no drama to it. But Seinfeld was so good at it that it was still funny and you enjoyed it. But all the copies were just kind of lame and didn't have anything to say. And I think, dragons, give me a good Robin Hobb dragon flying out of a log, I'm all about it. But if I get one more, teenage girl who feels bonded to a flying lizard, I may scream.
Excellent. That should be a quote on the next dragon book you read that's good. That should be the quote from you. It's like, it wasn't another teenage girl bonding with a dragon that made me scream. That'd be a perfect quote on the front cover. Sarah, what do you think about this topic?
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts about this topic. Sorry, I just because we were talking about dragons, I have two thoughts about dragons specifically. One, you're like, the most popular book on the planet right now is about exactly what you're talking about, and it's everywhere. And I just want to go one day without hearing about that book. Anyway, I had to just get that out of the way. I literally can't go one freaking day without seeing something about it. And then the other thing was, one story I always thought would be kind of funny to do as a dragon is a dragon, but it's like an episode of Hoarders, but they're a dragon. I just always thought that would be kind of a funny take on dragons. Anyway, that what I just said, like, I would love to see tropes do more of that stuff, take more risks. But yeah, it really does seem like there's just a lot of that kind of, we're just going to take whatever wildly successful book, name your book, whatever they did, and just kind of take it and redo it. And I don't know if it's financially motivated. I don't know if it's just because they really liked the book and they're inspired to write something similar, or if it's a lack of imagination in general.
Can I say something really stupid and hateful? It's glorified fan fiction.
Kind of. I mean, yeah, that's what I mean, is like they're inspired to write something Harry Potter did it too. Twilight obviously did it. Like, it's pretty much just that over and over. But I mean, I think it's a real shame, because I do, on my Facebook author page, I do a series called Monster of the Week. And there are so many interesting monsters out there. I don't know why we have to keep writing the same stories about the same dragons over and over again, when you can write about, for example, the Japanese vampire who every night their head disattaches and it goes floating around and it goes and kills people. Like, why don't we have those books?
It's a great skill to have as well.
Yeah.
Isn't it? You got a great alibi. So my body was in bed just next to someone. They thought my body was there the entire night.
Yeah. The only catch is your head has to come back before daylight or you die. So you can't go too far.
Well, I live in Ireland and it's very dark most of the time, so that's not a problem.
Well, there you go.
There you go. I'm gonna try and get this
for you. Look into it.
Thanks for bringing it up. This is great. I'm going to research it. Okay, before we go to your topic, let's have a look at the comments. We left it off at the Dresden talk. Now, Jim, I'm a reading that machine. That's because they want to be published in Random Penguin House. Yes, that's why I got confused. They have a formula of success. Zombies, enough with the fucking zombies, yeah. Although when it's interesting zombies, it's good, isn't it? You don't just like false. I do like false dragons. I really like Lagain and Masrintane, actually. So I do like false dragons. There are dragons everywhere. And this book, which Sarah mentions, which I don't know which one it is. So someone please in the comments say which book it is if you know what it is. Just so she combusts by seeing it. Humans rather than in books, possibly. Yeah, Joe agrees. Campaign for more griffins and phoenixes. Yeah, why not? More elves, more perspectives of the clouds. It's like, what are they all doing down there? Joe likes elves, and he loves Lord of the Rings. He loves Ents. Yes, Joe loves Ents. He sent me an email about Ents once, about how much he loves them. Funny dragons would be great. Yeah. Dragons voiced by Connor. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Do a horror panel on Wednesday about lesser known animals.
Send me the link. I want to go.
Yes, link us up. And dragons incorporate all the things that scare us in our little human cause. That is why they're so popular, I think. I think that's been really cool. No, I'd really like to ride the dragon and just maybe hug one, I think. But anyway, that's a different story altogether. Okay, Sarah, go ahead.
Okay. Mine has, I guess, all of my topics have a lot more to do with like because I just released a book, so it's a lot about like feedback and things like that. This one actually came up also at the conference this weekend, and it's kind of two different things. But I have always written kind of darker fantasy horror kind of stuff. That's just been what I write. But someone, and I won't say who, is constantly questioning me, like, have you ever thought about writing cozy mystery instead? Because that really sells well and it's very popular, and I think you'd be really good at it, and you should write that. And it's just, I want to, and I just say, okay, thank you. But inside, I'm just like, you have no idea how hard that would be to do. Like, you don't just, I guess my frustration is with, like, it's like me saying to someone else, well, why don't you just go be a pharmacist? I hear they make a lot of money. Why don't you just go do that? It's very hard to switch genres. And yeah, I would love to write a cozy mystery, although I'm probably talking to the wrong person, given that, Wayne, you write all kinds of different genres, but you'll probably have something to say about this. But I think it's that sort of misconception that, like, oh, you're a writer, so you just write things and you can just be successful at this genre because it's successful. It's sort of this misunderstanding of how easy it is to break into something new. And like, you choose. I mean, you don't have to, but like me, I'm trying to make a business, a career out of this. I'm trying to make money at this. So I've chosen a lane. That's the lane I'm going to stick with. And I don't care what other genre is making a bunch of money. This is the one I've chosen. Mom, it's my mom. Okay, I'll just say and then related to that is, and this is the thing that actually came up this weekend, is I was sitting at my booth and a person came up to, it was like the end of the day. It was like 15 minutes left in the day. It was 4 hours long. I've made 2 sales, which, no complaints. If I make 1 sale at some of these events, I'm happy. So I was doing fine. But I was tired, and I'd had an event the day before. I was exhausted. I was like, okay, I'm ready to go home. And this person comes up and he says, the way to really sell stuff at this is you should stand up. You should stand up and sell your book and lean forward and like engage. And I'm going to paint the picture for you. This was at a church. This was a church community room. Really nice people. But I write comedy, horror, paranormal fantasy. Like, I'm probably not going to, this is not my area. So I'm just glad I did anything at all. I met some
not for nothing. That's why I backed out of that event, Sarah.
Yeah.
I know the event you're talking about.
Yeah, of course you do, because you're here in town. But like, I mean, it was still really fun, and I'm glad I did it. I met a bunch of cool people because there were a lot of local writers, but like, I knew I wasn't going to sell anything. I wasn't there to make a bunch of money. And it's not that I didn't appreciate the advice. It's that I wasn't asking for the advice. And this is kind of across, I think it's a sort of a symptom of our industry in general, because it's like, reviews are the lifeblood of a lot of what we do. You need them. We're asking for opinions. We do ask for a lot of opinions. We ask for a lot of feedback. But I think then there's this, again, misconception that like, we're going to take any feedback unsolicited at all times. And it's just kind of like, maybe I would appreciate your opinion, but you're probably better off waiting until someone asks you for it. So that's my complaint, is like this unsolicited advice that people seem to think that we want, but isn't really super helpful.
Yeah, and it's also like, writing is a real skill. That's why, that's why people hire people to write stuff, or try to use what isn't really AI, but actually, you know, that's what people call it, to write things for them because they can't actually do it themselves. But then they all sort of be like, well, why don't you do it this way? And it's like, well, why don't you go and do it yourself if it's that easy? You know? Yeah, I was looking at some reviews of some a writer friend of mine got like someone whose average review score on Goodreads is less than 2, and reviewed a bunch of their books and gave them like 1 stars for everything, and basically everything they give is 1 stars, and they're just really, really critical of stuff. And it's like, just go and try and do it yourself, you know, if you don't enjoy it that much. But so do you find that I mean, do you get this happening quite a lot, like especially at kind of conventions and stuff? Do you get a lot of people come up saying, well, this would be better if you did this, or this and this and this? Is it
not in the way that it just happened to me, but I do tend to get unsolicited advice about, like, if we're just chatting about book stuff, and they'll just hand me like a bunch of information, and I'm just like, okay, well, we were just casually chatting. I didn't need like a whole, you know, course. I didn't need coursework to do from
right?
And I know it's because people want to help, and we all have, you know, amounts of knowledge, like some of us a ton of knowledge that we want to share. But again, it's just that unsolicited thing that kind of just makes you feel like, well, I wasn't really asking for help. I don't think I need, like, do you think I need help? It's an insecurity thing that it taps into for me.
Yeah, and it's also that thing as well. Like, you know, I mean, I was at, you know, on a table this weekend as well, and I did fine with it. But I'm not the sort of person to stand up behind a table and start basically shouting at people that walk past to say, come over here, and, like, you know, try and, you know, if people come up over and want to talk to me, I will do my best to talk them out of buying my book, because I'll be like, yeah, you know, it's fine. It's fine. It's okay. There's 4 of them. It's fine though. The first one's not very good. The next one's a bit better, you know. And then I'm amazed that they actually do end up buying them, because they think I'm being really humble, I think. So that's the thing. But then I see other people that are just like, you know, literally just, they're like P.T. Barnum with people surrounding them, and they're selling to all sorts of people. That's just not what everyone is like. So Wayne, we all know that romance books sell hugely well, and romance readers are very, you know, they blast through books. You can release 10 books and put them all into Kindle Unlimited, and they'll download all of them and get all the way through them. So why don't you go and write some of the romance books?
Funny you should ask. As I was listening to Sarah, first of all, they always say, write what you know. So, you know, that's not going to happen. It's the same reason I don't write erotica. But the thing that Sarah said, I did an interview recently, and somebody asked me, you know, what couldn't you write? And to Sarah's point, you know, I write businessy nonfiction stuff, and I write historical fiction. So I write a lot of things. You would think, especially with my background as a stand-up comic and everything I write kind of being funny, that a rom-com would be a natural, and that is my worst nightmare. Like, if you ever have to consign me to the flames of hell or make me write a rom-com, I will pack my asbestos underwear, because comedy, the minute you say what you are about to read is hysterically funny, you have cursed it. And so, you know, when people say, oh, you should write something that's really fun. No, I'll write what I'm doing and let the humor come out of that. Thank you very much. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I write in a whole bunch of things. And I mean, partly that's not a great move, right? As Sarah said, she's found her lane. She's sticking in it. She writes it very well. You know, whereas for me, if you take the Venn diagram of people who like historical fiction about the Crusades and werewolf detectives and how to run a really good Zoom meeting, you know, that is a very thin slice of humanity. So not the best business plan, being incredibly flexible. But I do have my standards and things that I will not write. Mainly because I wouldn't be any good at it.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So let's go to the comments. And while we're checking out the comments, let us know who you think came on top of in round 2. So Nikki says, "Let's all become hedge fund managers." Sounds wonderful. As a horror writer is now writing cozy paranormal mystery, totally sympathise. It's hard not to kill the characters. Sarah, that is the best attitude to have as an entrepreneur. If I sell one book, I'm happy. That's how you get to sell 10, then 100, then 1,000, one event at a time.
And the problem is, some of us, I love talking to readers. And, Sarah and I are going to be at the Las Vegas Book Fest in a couple of weeks. And it's a blast, right? We have a blast. We laugh with each other. We talk to readers. It's great. It is also the single-handed, next to just going door to door, maybe the least efficient way to sell a livable number of books.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but
it's fun. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Joe is going to give you some more advice about being more funny there, Wayne, as well, just on the spirit of the last topic. So as we go into the final round, and Sarah will be going first on this one, please, people that are watching, let me know who you think came out on top in round 2. And now we are in topic 3. And Sarah, take it away.
All right, I have a few to pick from, so I'm going to try to pick which one I'm most angry about right now. Because the one I wrote out, I'm not actually.
Therapeutic.
What's that?
This is very therapeutic.
It is. It's really nice. It's really fun to just kind of get it all out there. Okay. This one is, I think, just kind of. I hope I'm not stealing it. But I'm going to go with the fact that there's such an element of luck in this industry that nobody wants to talk about. I mean, you can write to market, you can do the 20 books thing, you can do all of that, but if you don't have the right timing or just some kind of freaking magic happen, your book still isn't going to land the way that, another book that fits or jives or whatever meshes with the world we're in, better than yours. And then on top of that, you have situations like the one a few months ago or a few weeks ago, or I don't even know how long, where you have a man sitting in a grocery store selling his book and he's not selling his book, and someone comes up and does a video, and then it's 100 million copies sold and it's like number 1 on Amazon. And that's great for that person, but it sucks too. It sucks. Let's be honest. Like, it's hard to, not be sleeping. And, having people tell you maybe you should try another genre, working your ass off, just hustling to get all these reviews, these, tens of reviews that you have. And then you have to go and see that. And again, happy for that person, super annoyed as well.
You want to know what's worse? What? He's with my publisher.
Yeah.
He worked the Johnny Lycan books.
You can have this solidarity topic with me.
out of Texas. And all of a sudden, that happened.
I know.
You try to be a good teammate. Good on you. Nice job. God bless you. Bless was not the verb I was thinking.
It sucks. It sucks.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice you can admit. It's nice you can admit to being like unhappy about it as well, because that's one of the things. It's like be happy for the author, but you are right. I mean, that could have happened to literally just anyone, but it just happened to be that person at that time, and it wasn't from anything that they'd done differently from anyone else is doing.
Right place, right time.
Yeah. Yeah, because there is a certain element. It's not even just luck that sometimes people don't talk about. There's particularly in the self-publishing world that there's other elements of people's success that people don't talk or acknowledge. So there might be someone that's like, how is it that you've gotten like 4,000 reviews for your book so early? And it's like, oh, I've just been working hard and put money into advertising. I'm also married to someone who's in marketing who helped me with all the marketing, but they don't mention that. Right? They just mention all the stuff that everyone else does, and the key bit that it's like Travis Baldry with Legends and Lattes. It's like, well, it's just the right book at the right time, but also I'm the narrator for Will White, and like I have a fan base already, and I also made loads of indie games that are like very, very popular. So it's like, well, other than those stuff, I just did the hustle.
Yeah, I'm sure that didn't help at all, right?
Yeah. No, that's an interesting one. Joe was trying to tease you as well by seeing if you wanted some advice. I hope you saw that.
I don't need it.
He's such a rascal. Okay, Wayne, your final subject.
My final one. I'm just going with the whole cranky old man thing today. There's a thing in book covers, particularly genre book covers, that's making me crazy. I think there are 4 models living on a farm in Kazakhstan who are raised purely to be the cover of novels, and they have the same 3 purple dresses, or if they're guys, their shirts that are undone to here, even if the cover art has nothing actually to do with the story. My favorite thing is shapeshifter novels, where the guys are all incredibly good looking and cut, which is fine, but there isn't a body hair on them. And it's like, they're shifters. Do they have to wax every day? What the heck? But seriously, there's like a farm where they grow people strictly to be models for covers. And then, everybody's worried about AI doing the cover art and all that stuff. You don't have to, because there's half a dozen people on Fiverr who just recycled the same covers. And I know this because there is a nationally known author who has a very successful book out right now who has the exact same cover clip art that I have on Acra's Bastard. So this is a big budget, traditionally published, very successful author, and they're recycling the same nonsense. It's like, I defy you to go into the fantasy section of a bookstore and just from the cover, if I covered the titles just from the cover, pick out the one for your story, and you couldn't do it. It's amazing. It's like this, and I know why, because it costs a lot of money to do a good cover, and it's hard to do a good cover, and we're all going to the same 5 people on Fiverr, but it's very, very frustrating after a while.
I help. I'm an admin for a reader group on Facebook, which has got like about 8,000 people in it or something. And there is a rule. I didn't make the rule, but I do enforce it, where any books that are reviewed that have shirtless men on it get removed straight away. It's a fantasy group, but we have the rules like no shirtless men books, please, because there's so many of them. And they're so funny as well. A part of me just loves looking at them because I just find them hilarious. Just the facial expressions that they have and what they're always posing with. I saw one recently where it's like a shirtless man posing with a cat, like a cat's wrapped around his shoulders, and it's like, what's going on? But I kind of loved it as well at the same time. But yeah, you're right, and there is a lot of cookie cutter covers these days. There's a lot to be said for just a nice piece of art, like a nice kind of symbol with nice colors and like, something that actually says something about what the book is about, which would be nice. What do you think, Sarah? Are you a fan of the same the same models being used all the time on covers.
Yeah, let's just keep it easy. All the genres get the same covers, different titles, and we'll know exactly what we're reading constantly. Yeah, no, I agree. I think it is very repetitive. And I mean, it's hard to try to fit into a genre and try to get away from it, though, is challenging, because you do want to communicate what genre you're in too. And if all the 100 covers look one way and yours doesn't look that way, it's going to end up in lower readership, and it sucks. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Let's have a look at the comments before someone has to decide who has won. That someone is me.
Someone.
It's not what you know, it's who you know. That is true.
I've never liked that. I've never liked that that's true, but it is.
Yeah, which do you not like, the statement or the fact that it's
all of it?
Yeah. It goes across the board. It definitely does. Hollywood, yes, I mentioned that is very true there as well. Yeah. Brazilian waxing intensifies. Yeah. The stock photos.
Anita, I cannot agree with you more. My publisher actually asked me when we were doing the first covers, could you find some stock art that looks like your character, just so I have something to work from, right? And I couldn't. Johnny is 30 years old, but he's obviously muscular, but he's stocky. He's not, gym buff, and he certainly isn't hairless. He's a very hairy dude, and he's not terribly pretty. And there is no such stock footage in existence unless you look at my family photo.
There you go. That's what you can use them for. Paranormal romance at the worst at this. There is that. I put that in my notes, actually. David, looking at shirtless, went, look, I can admire beauty in many forms. I'm comfortable enough to say that. Everyone should have an old school library cover. And that's just, yeah, this is a book. Okay, so while I decide who has won this, and it's a very, very great contest again, some great topics that were brought by both contestants. Please let us know who you think has come out on top. But also, we're going to run a little video about what the winner will also win, which is a free advert to be played on All Go Indie Now shows for the next while. So here is one from the past.
Lovecraft was wrong. Fear isn't the strongest emotion. Fear only causes 3 reactions: fight, flight, or freeze. Love, on the other hand, love is limitless and far more deadly. Nikki DeKeuster has also penned 2 books in the Bittersweet Empathy series, which follows Amy Doreen, an apathetic deviant suddenly struck with the ability to feel and manipulate people's emotions. At first, it's all in seemingly good fun, but the people she touches loses something of themselves and are never quite the same afterward, including Amy herself. Through blackouts, bleedovers, and the surety she's being watched, Amy must discover the horrifying truth behind her empathy before her 6th sense becomes her only sense. Available in Kindle Unlimited and paperback. See NikkiDeKeuster.com and PhoenixFeatherEdits.com for more.
Today's show is sponsored by Nikki DeKeuster with Phoenix Feather Edits. Phoenix Feather Edits offers uplifting and detailed support for your story. Each tale is unique, beautiful, and worth being told as only you can tell it. Nikki assists with shoring up structural, character, pacing, and plot elements as needed so that your story shines as brightly on the page as it does in your soul. Nikki specializes in developmental editing, manuscript evaluations, and outline critiques. Contact her for a free 1,000-word sample edit to see if she's the right fit for you and the story burning from your fingertips.
So there you go. And then just on that note, Nikki is my developmental editor, or beta reader and developmental editor, and she's great. So I would definitely recommend her. Okay, so some sucker has to decide this. So here we go. So topic one is a closely fought one, but I'm going to go with Wayne on topic one because I just finished writing a series and I was so burnt out from doing it that I actually went into hospital for a day because my jaw had fused together because I was grinding my teeth so much to finish the book. So I had to go and get muscle. Jaw. No, it was great. It was great time. Look, I finished the book, so that was all that was important. Round two. Yeah, it was a close one again because of I do feel like storytelling, especially in epic fantasy, is getting a little bit stale these days. However, after being at a convention this weekend, there was a lot of why don't you do this and why don't you do that and why this. So the second topic goes to Sarah. So we're going to the last one, one apiece, and I think just because of even though I completely agree on the covers, I do. I think with the honesty and the bravery of actually saying, look, it sucks when something works out for someone else. It doesn't for you when you're doing something else. I think that gives the point. So I think the overall winner today is Sarah. So congratulations.
Yay. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, it was a great contest between both. Very, very difficult to pick between them, and we'll all be back next Monday. To Wayne, you'll be getting the great prize of spending half an hour with Nikki DeKeuster. Sarah, unfortunately, you'll have to spend an hour with me, or we'll have a little chat. But thank you everyone for taking part. Thank you for Joe for production. Thanks to everyone in the comments. We hope you enjoyed it, and it is always time to go indie now.